Hello and welcome to my live stream. Ooh, this public. Yeah. So hi, I just streamed something, but apparently the monitor wasn't set up to show anything, so I've got to do it all again. Which isn't a big problem. It'll go faster this time. It took about an hour last time. Take maybe an hour this time. See how much faster I can do it. Anyway, I was trying to give a recap of my first semester on with the graduate school at Georgia Tech, the online Master's in Science and Computer Science degree that is a technical graduate degree in computer science that is provided online, completely online. So there is an on-campus program, and then there's an online program, and they're considered separate campuses. And I was able to apply to the online campus, online school, around last June, July, August, and then got in. This happened mostly because I was laid off about a year ago from my job that I held for a couple of years, because what happened was they canceled a project. So we were all working on a project and it was moving forward, and it made sense as a project because about 10% of the GDP is spent annually, so every year, on project breakdown and actual breakdown maintenance. So different technical websites or devices or whatever breaking down and getting repaired and having downtime, and then having to get pay people to repair their parts or whatever, updates. That's about 10% of the U.S.'s gross domestic product, and it would take 10 to 15% to upgrade and fix it one time, and then that would lower the maintenance costs from the breakdowns over time. So by upgrading and renovating an app for the government, which is what my job was, that's kind of the problem I was contributing to solve. Anyway, they had some politics at the top level. They shifted organizations around and shifted who was managing the project and moving forward with it, and deciding which parts to move forward with and what the requirements were for those, and wound up canceling our project even though it was meeting requirements and working and just needed to get expanded. So they laid off most of the people working on the project, except for people that could jump to other projects at that time. So I did wind up working to get a Security Plus certification with the CompTIA trade organization, which is enough to get like a business license and start a company as an IT and cybersecurity consultant. I'm not moving forward with that because that was more of a step to get access to different projects and kind of be more qualified in my career as a software developer. And software development is different from security consulting or IT. People don't always know those distinctions, but they are different. That was kind of the standard security certification. I think it's the most common certification achieved with the CompTIA. They have some that are kind of supposed to be or considered lower level that are for IT mostly, an A plus and number plus, and there's some overlap with those certifications in the Security Plus one. But the Security Plus one is kind of like the standard for software developers or people outside of cybersecurity career directly, because cybersecurity is also different from app development or software development. People don't always know that distinction either. So I was able to do that to show progress with my career And then moving forward from that, let's see. Yeah, so I just streamed it and it didn't work. Anyway, moving forward from that, I was able to get into the online Master in Computer Science degree at Georgia Tech. And they have some good resources from Reddit. So there's this OMSCS Rocks website, and then this OMS Central website. So this is mostly info about the courses, like reviews. And then this one is actually information about the courses and how full they are, and whether they're offered, and kind of what requirements they meet in terms of the degrees and what some of their prerequisites are. So from this website, you can see here that there are a lot of courses. The one I wanted to take, software development process. This one, Java, it's like 4 foundational. You have to take 2 foundational in the first year to move forward and unlock the other classes that aren't necessarily foundational. So moving forward from the foundational courses is kind of later in the program, but you have to knock those out first. And then you can take other classes that are also foundational, but you're not required to. So software development process, Java, matches a lot of what I've seen before. I think I took a class like that before. But the fill rate is like close to 100%, so it tends to be impacted. If you look here, 5 of the last 8 semesters it was impacted, and even when it wasn't, it's iffy if they could, if anyone could get that class because of the one kind of open slot, and that's like it's waitlisted. I see they had to bump up how many seats. There are 825 versus 750, 780, 550. So they had to increase the size of the class too. Kind of meet the impacted level, but it's still probably not. It was kind of impacted like a week ago or whatever, and then I guess people got off the wait list or shifted around or whatever. So this class is still hard to get. Kind of the basic summary of what's going on. And a few of these classes are impacted because they're supposed to be easier or better, the kind of beginner classes. Computer networks looks like it's usually impacted to about half the time. So anyway, I found out about information security, which was not filled. It's required for another version of the degree. So there are 2 spin-off degrees from the original online Masters in Science and Computer Science with Georgia Tech, and the other 2 are data science or data analytics and also cybersecurity. So the cybersecurity degree requires you to take this course, IIS, Intro to Information Security, but it does not get full, kind of, ever, according to this table. So I thought that would be a good place to start, considering I just got my Security Plus certification in winter. I think it was December, actually. So moving forward from that, I thought this would have a lot of overlap with what I learned for that certification, and then beyond what I learned for that certification, it would give more kind of practical experience, hands-on experience with exploits that are used for cybersecurity, or within cybersecurity. So going forward, there's this Georgia Tech portal. It's kind of hard to find this portal. I was able to look at it and log in, but the first week when things were kind of shuffling around with registration, I didn't think they had a lot of this set up or were kind of ready. And then after I was able to kind of hunt around and find this, it actually said on Canvas, which is the website that provides a lot of the coursework. It's our portal to the course itself. It has the lectures available. It's kind of like a hub for, the assignments. It's kind of a hub for the course. So if we go to that, they say somewhere in the courses, it shows what courses I was enrolled in or am enrolled in. So this is like the OMSCS Student Center. That's all the events they have or announcements. And then this is Intro to Info Security. That's the actual first class I enrolled in to start my tenure as a student. So if we go to this, they were saying that they don't send emails and they won't respond to emails. All the kind of information is either through this campus website. If it's not through this campus website, it's through a discussion. This is where the kind of main communication comes through. It's their main communication platform. So it has, it's just mainly like a discussion board. They won't respond to emails or send emails really. From here it's kind of the main communication center, and this is the main kind of hub for information that's like more about the class itself, like the syllabus, or the assignments posted, or grades, or that there's grade scope, which is where we would submit our assignments to get graded. So let's see, where was it? Yeah, so, and from here you can get to the lectures as well. The lectures aren't really required for this course. The way this course is set up, there are 8 mandatory assignments and 1 optional, and it wasn't always set up that way. If we look at the textbook that is available, I'll get to that later. We get to, see, so fundamental lecture content available in Ed Lessons. So if we click that button, it'll have this lecture.
Hello, my name is Musaka Hamad. I'm a professor of computer science at Gatech and also a member of the Gatech Institute for Information Security and Privacy. I've been at Gatech for 30 years, and it's been a great journey. My research interests are computer systems and system security. In addition to doing research and teaching, I served as director of the Gatech Information Security Center from 2004 to 2012. I also co-founded Finger of Security, that is commercializing our research that we did here in open security. I'll be co-teaching this course with Professor Venki Lee. Both of us have taught this course.
So he does not teach this course anymore, and
on campus many times. We're delighted to bring
he is now kind of the lead for the course. You can see here. So the lectures are kind of older. They're from maybe 2017 or so. It's hard to tell, but they're available free online. All you have to do is go to the Georgia Tech website, 6035 Intro to Information Security. So you look up this class, and then it says to access the public version of this course's content, click here. And then you have to have an Ed Lessons account that's free, and then you can get to the lectures for free. So they're not watched right here. So those are good to have as background information, but they weren't required for a lot of the assignments. As you can see here, I didn't watch all the lectures. The check mark means I did, and then completed the lecture, and then I think that circle means I've attempted or looked at some of it, and then the blue circle I haven't even looked at all. So I've done most of the lectures, but they're not all relevant. They kind of said at the beginning this is a research class. They used to have these lectures work with the assignments, so they're in kind of a different order than the assignments are now. And so you have to kind of hunt and pick, and I think we started with firewalls and intrusion detection for the first kind of assignment, so it's in the middle somewhere. And then parts of it are relevant, parts of it aren't. So these aren't updated because they said it was a lot of effort to keep these updated and relevant. So they're kind of just for reference or enrichment. You can watch them on your own. A lot of this class is supposed to teach the security mindset, which is a way of thinking about security. So seeing how things could break or get attacked or stolen or whatever. And that's kind of what some of this class is supposed to teach. And they teach it by having you exploit different projects here that are available. And then they also provide you with a textbook, but the textbook is not really like a traditional textbook. If we look here, okay, not there. Look here and we search for the textbook. There's a link here, brings you to a textbook. And it's like, oh, this is a textbook that's all a PDF, but it's 15 pages, gives you an intro, table of contents, but the actual textbook is just a lot of links to other sources that fill you in more detail for whatever topic you're looking at. And then something else to look at with this textbook is to see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 projects and then an appendix. So they give you hints and resources, kind of papers or different websites and articles to look at for information about the projects. And if you look here, like I said, there are 4 projects, and this was the original syllabus, or number of projects, and then they've expanded it, and they keep expanding it. So if you see here, summer 2023, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects, and then fall. So even a year ago, there were estimated the same amount of projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but 7 are mandatory. 7 projects are mandatory, and then 1's extra credit. And here, if you look at our section, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 8 are mandatory and 1 is extra credit. So it keeps growing over time. It started with 4 projects. I think it started with malware analysis, the database one, RSA, binary exploitation, and it's just been expanding. But they did cut out a lot of the lectures being like required quizzes, and then also midterms, and then also like a final. But a midterm and final aren't really worth like another 3-4 projects that are 10 to 25 hours each. So it is expanding. They said that this is kind of causing a bit of strain with on-campus students, that they want there to be more quizzes and midterms and finals, and have more focus on the content, so the lectures, because it's a lot less than these projects or mini projects that are set up like capture the flag style black boxes. Because doing 20 hours a week on 10 to 20 hours a week on one class and having these projects every week or two tends to be a lot, and it's kind of training, and then it's always something new and different, and it's not just like something that's a higher level from what you already learned in the class, like a lot of classes with how it's set up so there's built-in. Because something that's from like binary exploitation is going to look a lot different from something from log or shell, and there's not this exactly clear connection from log or shell to binary exploitation. So it kind of jumps around a lot. There's not a lot of background with the lectures or textbook, just kind of says to look at things. And then that's why it's considered a research class. You have to figure things out on your own. There's not a lot of teaching going on unless you're doing it yourself. But that seems to be kind of an expectation with like an online master's degree in anything, especially computer science, because there's a lot of outside time and effort that has to get spent learning like different languages or math or proofs, for example, because there's a class in this program that's required for just about everyone that requires mathematical proofs, and then they didn't teach that to people necessarily, they didn't teach it to me. I've gone very far with math, but we had 2 math classes in my earlier master's degree in mechanical engineering, so it just never touched on proofs or kind of working with mathematical proofs, other than them showing us proofs and saying why things are true or valid that they expect us to use. So at this point, they decided, maybe not enough people had seen proofs, so they have a seminar that's 1 unit that's offered to show proofs. And then there's other places to learn. Like, I got a book that looks like it's kind of written for like a teenager in terms of like how things are spaced or like how they describe things or explain things. But it's really big. It's like the size of a phone book or half a phone book. So that's why I'm going to have to spend a month or 2 in summer reading. And then Udacity, which you can see here. I was working on C++ because I need to learn C and C++ outside to move forward in the degree. Because it's in 3 or more classes that I'm going to be taking. So, as you can see here, the class got bigger. It's kind of a strain on for the on-campus students. The online students, the ones that I've seen with there's just supposed to be this one discussion board that's moderated by the TAs, who kind of patrol it and offer hints and kind of make sure the hints don't give away too much. So it's kind of on you, and you're kind of on your own to learn it and get through it. The grades tend to be really good, but it can be kind of frustrating that there's not a lot of teaching. It's fine for me because I'm self-taught as a computer scientist, and it's kind of set up to be a bit more like a game. But this is a requirement for the cybersecurity course, and then people could be struggling with it and then rethinking that they want to do cybersecurity. So, there are trade-offs. Later on, they expect you to kind of do more work with teaching or assistance. I think it kind of being not everything being explained or like handed to you kind of made the course less popular, like with this, so that's why I could get in. It's also taught in like 3 sections, so there are like 700, 750, whatever seats, 750 when I took it. But there are other sections. There's one that's cybersecurity, for the cybersecurity degree, and that's a different section. And I think there's a data analytics one, and then there's an on-campus one. So they split it up so that people are in different sections, but then it's all pulled together with the discussions for the most part. I don't know if the on-campus people have access to that or not. And then it tends to be pretty hands-off in terms of what the TAs and professor do. The professor had about 2 or 3 office hours, and 2 of them were just kind of giving different mini lectures that were like updates and things he wanted to touch on about like election security, because that's what he was working on. And then beyond that mini update with the election security, they wanted feedback, so they just had him and some of the TAs asking kind of for feedback and how we felt about the class. So it tends to be pretty hands-off with the professor with the recorded lectures and then the textbook that's linked to other places, and then the only kind of real communication platform being this ed discussion, and then the office hours would mostly be with the TAs because the TAs set up each project and tested it, and then they run it. So it's like the TAs for man in the middle would be one or two TAs that kind of set up this project and run it, and then the TAs for you guys would be different, and then they'll run different office hours. So that's kind of how it's set up. The grading is all set up to be automated. So they have this kind of platform called GradeScope to run grader assessments anywhere. And with the grading, it's all kind of good flexible grading, detailed feedback, delivered instantly. So it involves you submitting a file, and then it's usually like true or false. It's like binary, 100% or 0% for each part. So the way they can get different percentages and things is by breaking it into different parts and weighing them differently. And then they also have some code running on the back end to work with different parts of your assignment. If you're supposed to submit like a machine learning or AI model to classify something or works on something, they have to run that code. So it takes files. It can be code that runs or flags, and then the flags are right or not, and then the code runs and it gives the right answer or not. But it tends to have literal, it does say flexible, but it's not really that flexible. It's just kind of like right or wrong. And then there's not a lot of arguing or negotiating about it, because they give you multiple attempts to try to submit most of the assignments. So it could be like, you have 10 chances to get all the answers right, or 15 or whatever. And they can set it for different sections. But beyond just getting you multiple tries and feedback saying what you got right and what you didn't get right, it's all kind of automated and kind of rigid. So if you don't get the answer, then you don't get it, and you can't really ask much beyond the hints. So they were saying that this is cold or rigid or inflexible or whatever, but it's not. It's kind of a requirement that if you get the flag, you get the points. It's kind of how objective grading works. It's kind of like not exactly like a math class in that way, but there's not a lot of bendiness with like, oh, I kind of got points for this answer, I should get points. So, like I was saying, people can consider like cold or stuck up or inflexible, but that's just kind of part of the package of this figurine career in terms of the school. Other places there might be more flexible, like at work with your employer or customers or whatever, but for these classes, if you want to get through them and pass them, and get through, by that I do mean get through. When people graduate from Georgia Tech, they say they got through, and then they say what year they got through, and that means what year they graduated, finished. So it's how it's set up. It's like a culture that is. The classes are kind of more rigorous, and then they're a little rougher with the grades, so there aren't letter grades. There aren't adjustments to letter grades. It's just A, B, C. There aren't pluses or minuses. So it's just, this is how they set up the program, and this is kind of what you have to deal with if you want to move forward and have a degree in this from the school. Just likewise, they don't have a lot of flexibility with late assignments. They said nothing's accepted late. Unless you have military deployment, like you're moving with the military, and then you can't get an assignment done, or there's a health kind of crisis, so probably that you're hospitalized. I don't know that they'd give you a lot of leeway other than something kind of major like hospitalization. So like I said, there's not a lot of flexibility, but they have to treat everyone the same, and then they do give people kind of a lot of chances with getting into the program. So that's make sure that after they get in, they can do the work. And then, like I said, the assignments are given at certain times. So if you look at the assignments, it has like the closed due date. So it has like an open date and a closed date. And then it's always at midnight East Coast time. And sometimes assignments are given or closed on like the weekend night. So it could be a Tuesday, it could be a Saturday or Sunday. I do know that at least a couple times I was up on like a Saturday or Sunday night at 9 p.m. just trying to skim through and get an outline of how to do my assignment, just kind of the requirements and what was going on. Let's see, is this working? What's going on? Yeah, it's working. Okay, good. So, alright. So the video wasn't working last time, so I had to watch it, and then it was like an hour, and I was like, oh no. Technical difficulties. So where was I? Grade scope. So they have that these assignments are released at a certain time and closed at a certain time, and that's not flexible at all. So what I do is I'd watch TV or whatever, and then I just kind of read the assignment for like an hour, and then get ready for bed and go to bed, and start the next day. And it takes a few days. I think 2 days was the minimum time for an assignment, and maybe like 5 or 6 was the most I took. If we look at OMS Central, this is the website that gives reviews. So for these reviews, you can see, I think the one I was looking at is IS, Intro Information Security. You can look at, they give a rating, difficulty, workload, number of reviews. So these are averaged over the number of reviews. It is weighted so that probably most of the reviews are old. Like, I don't know that many of them are the last semester. And like I said, the last semester was probably the most work with 8 assignments and then 1 extra credit. So that would mean that difficulty is probably higher, or rating could be different, or workload might be higher because it's more crammed in than like 4 projects and 2 midterms or 6 projects or whatever, or midterm and final or 6 projects. So the older ones, and it's weighted so that there are more kind of older reviews or whatever. So it's kind of in flux. It's better to look at maybe within the last year for reviews. Like I was saying, because they changed the classes over time, and that makes things work different. But 10 hours a week sounds maybe reasonable, but it took 10 to 25 hours, and then for each assignment, they have an assignment every week and a half or 2 weeks. But then there's other time where like you're prepping for the assignments, so watching lectures, and then with the lectures, it's like you watch lecture, but you don't really get it, and you have to walk around and do things, and you're kind of tired for a few hours, and then after the assignment for 3 days or whatever, you're kind of going, and then tired for a couple of days. So these are the hours, but there's other time that's also affected. I was lucky in terms of I was able to start it early and get through them pretty quickly. It's all set up like pre-performance where you have like a week or half a week on, and then a couple rest days, and then prepping for the next assignment. So like preparing for the next security breach, it's like if there was a security breach and run around and patch it or fix it, and then do a report to summarize it, and then have a few days to just kind of hang out, and then start prepping for the next one, running like a simulation or something, or reviewing more material. Anyway, so it's a little choppy in terms of the workload. It's not like 10 hours every week. It's like 20 and then like 5 or 7 or something. Anyway, that is what they have here. And we'll have reviews, and we'll start talking about the different reviews. It's all project based. If you look at the grading, like I said, there's not a lot of flexibility. It builds up, so the first half of the class has kind of easier assignments or smaller assignments, and then they don't give you as much time for them. And then the later half of the class has kind of bigger or what are supposed to be more difficult assignments. And then this is actually probably the biggest assignment. I don't know about most difficult, but it's big. And it's weighted the least. So that's kind of glitchy because that's the newest mandatory assignment too. That wasn't mandatory before. And the web security assignment at the end is maybe half the size of one assignment. It's hard to tell because I'm a full stack developer. So full stack systems like websites, front end and back end, involve web security and API security. So this was like the easiest or second easiest. Along with this one, they took about just a couple days or whatever, a few days. Just based on background, but what people have seen, it kind of gives you a intro across the board, like kind of a bit into each different area. With the grading, people don't do as well on the last assignment consistently or last couple because they just need to get their grade a lot of the time. They don't want to, over optimize what score they get or anything because anything over 90 is an A. I kind of did this, and then there were some parts of the assignment that didn't make a whole lot of sense to someone that would go to work and do these things. They were just trying to get you to use the program a certain way or do certain things, but the way it worked didn't make a whole lot of sense to a working person. I was far enough along that I didn't have to do it. But there's other stuff where they'll have some academic problem for cryptography that probably would not happen in reality or out in the wild, but they wanted us to get exposed to it and kind of see this sort of attack and probably learn how RSA cryptography worked better, and make sure we could write code to perform. I think it had a binary search or whatever, some kind of binary search that was with custom conditions maybe. So there's all kinds of stuff that they want to kind of force you to see or know by doing these projects. That's part of why I did the extra credit. The projects have it set up so that if you get 100, it's that there's a good 10, 15, or 20% part usually at the end, but that can tend to be 30% more work, 40% more work to get that shift from a B to an A. So that's when it is more work, and it's 30% more work, not 10% more. So that's the way I felt anyway about this, and then I tried to do as much as I could because with the intro class, it seemed like I could, work at it and get an A. It overlapped with the security plus enough. I didn't have any other work or things going on in terms of that, other kind of work time or trainings on my computer science or programming work time. And then with the security stuff, this is a subset, so maybe a quarter to half of the security breaches are based on technical flaws, so flaws with actual programs or equipment or technologies involved, but a lot of the time, half or 3/4 of the time, it's probably people. So the kind of weak spot with a lot of these systems is people. There's a way to trick people or kind of turn people to your side. So one of the major sort of actions is insider threat or risk, I should say. So insider threats, this one had insider threats. This one kind of had insider threat that they might have leaked like programs. So there was like not a whole lot about people. And that's like a huge deal in real life that there's an insider threat. And then the other part of social engineering would be phishing. They're kind of both under the umbrella of social engineering, but phishing is another big one. And then for the extra credit assignment, the last of 4 parts touched on phishing. Kind of had to be craft and exploit that you use to phish people. But that's one part out of an extra credit assignment that's optional. And it's like the very last one, and it's what probably half of the breaches or attacks involved in the outside world. So this is kind of good for a technical view at cybersecurity, but half or more of it could be social engineering and thinking people and how people interact with the actual programs or technology, or other people who are trying to get information from them. So it's a good class for an introduction. It's not complete or comprehensive. The Security Plus certification has a lot more than this. It doesn't maybe show you some examples of attacks that are technical. A lot more of it's kind of vocabulary or critical thinking, but it does touch on a lot more topics, and then it's got more awareness of like a human factor that's a lot more exploitable, or tends to be easier to exploit than a lot of these technical factors here. And that's a lot more work too. I'd say that's probably 2 classes or more. I know with the A+ certification, they teach 2 sequential lab classes at like a community college nearby. And after you do both and you get through like a huge reference book, you should be able to do the A+ test. And that's kind of where they are here with Security Plus. So that would be probably more than 1 class. So it's more comprehensive to have like the certification, and you could probably start a business with 1 or 2 of those certifications. I don't know about being able to start a business with this class. But it's good to kind of get everyone on the same page with what these different technical attacks are and how they work, and hands-on experience, and make sure that people know enough of this to be successful and move forward in the program. So beyond that, this is what my grade was. I didn't need to do as much as I did on machine learning, but some of it was a little easier for me, and I didn't need to do web security, but like I said, I just want to see the assignments they made and what they put in them, because they're probably useful to know in terms of just exposure. And then assignments, module syllabus, right. So then some things about the school. Like I was saying, there's like the conflict between the online classes and on campus, because this is a quarter of the students that attend the online programs now, and that's bigger than the on-campus school for this. And then it's also a quarter of all the students, so it can just kind of keep growing and snowball and get more clout. So focusing on people who are maybe older and already in these careers or in industry and kind of more capable and already trained somewhere is attractive to the university. It would make something like the progressive degree, which I did at USC, which was like the 4-in-1 degree, a lot more difficult, because if this class goes up 50% to 100% more work with less instruction, that makes it a lot harder for someone taking multiple classes. It might not affect someone who's working and then has to do 50% more of one class versus someone who has 3 classes or 4 classes. 4 classes is full time here, and then 50% more would be 2 more full classes. So that's kind of a huge load, and that'd be difficult to do. Um, so they were saying that there are some trade-offs with how they're catering to the online students a little more because there are a lot of them, and then they can be kind of more professional or older, and then trying to beef up kind of how the school works so it's a little more difficult, even though it was already supposed to be difficult as a technical institute and then somewhere where they say get through. So this is something to watch where they're kind of trying to make the program even better, but that does have other costs, like people will get more tired or have less they can do outside, which brings me to how I could get kind of this sort of grade, because it's an intro class, and then a lot of it had to do with cutting out kind of hobbies and kind of social time or like dating or trying to find a job or do a job somewhere. So a lot of the focus just went into this. And then that was kind of critical. I think at some point you have to choose kind of where you want to be and what you want to do with like trade-offs, that this can move forward and it can be at this sort of higher level or more complete level. I'd want to say that I did more and then I completed more. Because the trade-offs were that I did go to like my grandpa's birthday was 90, and then I was able to work on this early and then go to that, so that was something like social. I had a party where we were at the house, showing off the house, and my new nephew was a baby, so I had to have time for that and kind of other things, and there weren't these huge conflicts. But there were other things that I wouldn't have time for, so noticing like if we look at GitHub, I get into the program around here, and then I have some commits and things to show progress with like applying for jobs or working on side projects, and then there aren't really side projects happening here or commits, and then some of these are just from things I did with the school that aren't direct assignments because I can't just post the assignments. So that's how you can see the commits just kind of fall off the chart. I took the Security Plus test somewhere in here, and then was with the school, and kind of that took up all the computer time. So not a lot visible and not a lot on the side that you'll be able to see. Same thing with Kaggle. If you look here, there are all these comments or discussions or notebooks or assets I'd be releasing and working on, and then it kind of drops off to nothing during the school time. If you look at chess, for like another hobby, we can look at, but I've done 452 games over the last year, and then over the last month I've done 11, so that's not, 10%, that would be 120 games a year, and over the last 90 days I've done 43, so over like 3 or 4 months I've done like 50 maybe out of, 450, so that's like 10%, even though it's been a quarter of the year or a third year. So those things kind of tend to happen less and less or be working less, and that's why my rating would go down. I was like tired, or I couldn't do as many chess lessons and so on. And then here, this is something that I kind of chose to do, leak code, because it's relevant to my career and school and work. So this seemed like an important kind of activity just to stay up, because it's useful for technical interviews, and then also maintaining like progress with like writing code and learning different code information. So if we look at today, for example, 3 submissions, this time I took was 6 minutes, and then this is like with the timer, so it doesn't take very long. It takes maybe 20 minutes a day. I'll just find a problem I can do in like 20 minutes. And it says I got 2 wrong answers, but they were actually the same answer, but there was like a glitch with the the internet, and then if you want to know the difference, what happened was there's this line here, there's this one line off, because I was skimming this description, and it's about maximizing the happiness of selected children. It's kind of academic, but they use it for screening people for work, for technical interviews. So anyways, it says in each term you select a child. When you select a child, the happiness value of all the children that have not been selected so now decreases by 1. Note that the happiness value cannot become negative and gets decremented only if it is positive. So I think I read the first sentence and then kind of skipped the second one instead of skimming, and then there's something called the lazy rule where you don't really finish things. You just kind of read it fast and then don't catch everything because it doesn't seem as important. But what happens is and chosen could be more than a happiness value, so it could be negative. So this line of code had to have this added to set it to 0 if it is negative. So you can add any number, you can add 0, add a minimum. And then if you look at my submissions before then, it had that I didn't have that one line of code right there, or that mod line of code. So it's close, but it's just like that there's some little thing you miss, and they're set up so that they have a lot of like twists and turns that are hard to get exactly right the first time. It's almost suspicious if you write the code and there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, so it's good to know like kind of how to read these questions, because they make sure they put things in. It has to be, everything they put in this description is used. Usually there's not a lot of extraneous information or different information, and that's kind of how you have to be, or I have to be, in terms of this graduate degree. But it has to be things that go into this and go into like directly relevant work for school and then later on for the career. So there are some kind of traps or kind of like classes that people might do that are fun, but they're not really as directly relevant. So if you look at the reviews website, for example, it has some video game classes, video game design programming, rating of 418, difficulty of 2.29, workload 12.54. So they get good reviews for this class because it's kind of fun and exciting. You get to make your own video game, so make your own project. But then there are other classes that are probably more relevant, where there's advanced topics in software analysis and testing, and it has like a lower rating, 3.5. Difficulty's higher, and it's like the same workload. But this is probably a lot more useful because pretty much any product that ships has to get tested. You can't have a product ship and not get tested and quality controlled, because the users will test and quality control it, and they'll find all kinds of problems, and then they'll be very vocal about what's wrong with your product, and it can cause huge problems for your company or reputation or whatever, stock price. Anyway, so the video game class might be fun, but it doesn't come up, and this will pretty much always come up at work. So it makes a lot more sense to take a class in it, even if the rating's lower or it's more difficult. And that's kind of how grad school works, where there's not a lot of extra time, and then it kind of has to go into things that make sense. So that's why I'm doing computer systems, because that's kind of the standard specialization, and then I'm only doing core or electives for that specialization, and then ones that are relevant, so seem like they'd be reasonably likely to come up at work. So yeah, and then Udacity, same thing happened. I was trying to do C and C++ because I need to learn this for multiple classes, and they don't teach it at the school. And then to move forward with the classes and know this, I was able to do this first project in the first week when I didn't know how to get on the website or what to do, whether anything was available. And then I kept trying to go forward with lectures, and then I got to this project, and I couldn't really switch between this project and the assigned projects because of the course's scaling, like it getting to be more work towards like crunch time, where right in here we have like crunch time where the projects are more, but they're bigger and worth more and take longer. They give you more time for them. So there's just like, there has to be awareness that there isn't a whole lot else that can be going on in terms of outside work, like with GitHub or chess or hobbies, side projects that can be going on besides kind of what's going on here. I could do some simple projects. I was able to go through my book inventory. I'm trying to put it all on the Kindle, or most of it, digitize it. So looking at it, I had to organize and inventory about 262 books. So I got over 250 books, and then I donated about 30 for over $500 to the library. So that's like, I have these other things that I'm up to that people might not really see or know about, but they're clearly going on and they're effective because the Kindle books tend to cost less, and then they're more portable, and then they all fit on one Kindle, and then that way I don't have books taking up as much space that I've already read, and then someone else can use them. So it's kind of like a win-win for everyone involved. But you don't see a lot of that going on with like external things. And then I also had to keep up with just social things, like I had a birthday party for my brother last night. It was his birthday today, so I had to get him a present. And then we have a lot of birthdays coming up, I think 7 or 8 over the next 2 months, so it's just about every week. So there's just constantly stuff going on that might not be extremely visible, but it's definitely happening. And that's again why I couldn't really be doing the other like Total War show, or I was able to do some gaming with Steam, but just right after kind of towards the end of this crunch time where I didn't have to do as well on this assignment, and then this was extra credit. So then I could start kind of playing some games again, but not all the time. And not planning like a show or trying to move forward with that, just kind of doing it to relax a little. So that's kind of how you'd be looking at doing this if you wanted to do it right. Again, first year is important because that's kind of the foundation. That's when you start building up to be there longer and work there. After the first year, they're kind of hands off, like I said. The TAs don't really give you much information, the professor doesn't have much interaction with you, but after the first year, you clear a foundational kind of course hurdle, you get into more interesting work, and then maybe help with research, maybe you look at becoming a TA yourself, have more kind of face time with professors, or the classes become smaller or more specialized, and kind of build a little better, and not just do kind of an array of projects to learn how to think about security, especially cybersecurity, and then get exposed to a lot of topics and kind of go through the same process. And I do know that some of the later classes have like required time with the professor. Like required office hours for required lectures, and so on. So, let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Yeah, and it's just important to keep eating and exercising. And I tried to keep like a weekly cycle with the courses, so it would be easy to get off. But these getting released at just whatever 10 days is or 14 days, so it could be Tuesday that the project's released, Tuesday night or Sunday night or whatever. But I try not to work on it unless it's Monday through Friday, and like during the day, so from the morning to the mid-afternoon. Yeah, so, because it's easy to get off and not have kind of a more regular cycle that mostly everyone outside would. So let's see, how long is that? Oh, right about an hour. Yeah, so I shaved about 10 minutes off with this. Let's see. Yeah, so stuff's constantly going. I have to do taxes and all these regular things too. Housework. I had to oil my doorknob because it was sticking. So I guess it got stuck over time, and clean stuff and all that. So it's important to kind of maintain your environment and stay functional and kind of healthy and all that. So that's kind of my advice. Like, you can't do a lot of goofiness or like extraneous stuff that's not really making sense for schoolwork or other things that are important, like health or nutrition. So like when I was in grad school the first time, I would play my saxophone or I'd go swim on longboard or whatever, and then I would have probably been playing video games or something. So it's just not it's not going to work later. It kind of works for maybe undergrad or kind of early 20s, but then later on you have to kind of focus on what you're doing, and the work tends to get bigger and then more involved, and then that has to be kind of more a priority if you want to move forward with whatever you're doing. Yep, so like I said, May 9th, thanks for joining me. I'll probably give another update towards the end of the year after my next class, and I'd like to thank you for spending time with me, and have a good rest of the week.